Hello everyone, welcome to today's Masterclass event. I hope you all are doing great. So, how you all spend your festival holidays? I hope you all enjoyed Diwali. For today's Masterclass event, we have Gaurav with us. He has more than 5 years of working experience in software development. Gaurav is currently working in Sony India Software Center, leading front-end development team of one of prestigious Sony products. He's an active contributor to the this learning and open source activity. So let's welcome our instructor Gaurav for today's masterclass.
Thank you, Naren, for your wonderful introduction. So, hi, hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well and you had lovely Diwali holidays and still going on. And you took time in between for this wonderful master class event with Alma Better. So, hi, Gaurav, this side. I'm currently working in Sony for the past 1.9 years as a full stack developer. My major contribution is mostly in the front end, but yeah, I take care of the back end as well. And I have total 5 years experience as what Narendra introduced me. And yeah, it's been it's a great experience. I wanted to share many multiple things with you guys, not only with the front end development, but entire software development, engineering career, and what to choose, what not to choose, what front end development is, what are the best tools. And yeah, there are multiple tools. It's not the major five tools, but yeah, since we have the time constraints, we'll basically focus on to the top five front end tools and what is front end development. So we'll understand all those things in today's masterclass. Narendra, if you just allow me, I could quickly start with my things.
Yeah.
Sure. So is my screen visible?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
visible.
sure. So everyone are onto the same page, like welcome to masterclass event, right?
Uh, Attendees don't have access to PPT. We'll give them at the end.
Sure. Sure. So everyone, my screen is visible, like welcome to the masterclass event, right? Everyone are able to see this PPT, right, onto my screen? Narendra. Okay, fine. Okay, that is fine. Yeah. Okay, so we'll quickly start with today's agenda. So today's agenda is the very first thing. What is software development? Now, many people have this dilemma that the front end development is the UI UX things. We have to basically understand the components of the front end website, or we have to see the Netflix website. We have to see the multiple websites which are available, and we have to design the front end of it, the UI or the UX of it. It's not only the designing the UI UX, it's more 70% is more about the development rather than the design development. Okay, so front end development is more you do with the HTML, you do with the CSS, you do with the JavaScript, you do with the React, you include multiple frameworks in the libraries according to the needs of the clients and the requirements of the clients. Okay, and the people who basically create the UI or UX are not basically defined properly, like in the core domain of front-end development. To be a core front-end developer, you have to inculcate the basic skills that are the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, and one of the libraries of the frameworks of the JavaScript. Basically, nowadays you are very much familiar that the React, the Angular, the Next.js are very much popular libraries and frameworks in the market. So all these things will be understood in this today's agenda, like what's the difference between these two, and what to choose, where not to choose, and what is basically the front end development, will understand in this today's agenda. Next, moving on to the agenda will be the popular front end libraries and frameworks. Will basically will learn about and will understand about the JavaScript popular libraries and frameworks in the terms of uh, okay, fine. will basically make it a very mix of things, means like Hindi and English. If everyone are comfortable in Hindi also, will make it a mix. It's not a problem for me. Okay. The main thing is, yeah, will basically make it the mix of things. No worries. ठीक है. तो उसके बाद will basically take the understanding of the top 5 tools of the software development, not only in this year, but in the upcoming years. We have to make sure that we are aware of these tools, है ना. हमको ये 5 tools basically, like we have to make sure that we understand these 5 tools as well. Okay, so Visual Studio Code is the very first thing. ये पहला है हमारा Visual Studio Code. The second is the Git. तो second हमारा Git होगा. ये one of the it's a very famous like library, or we can say it's basically the tool, not the library, is a tool where हम अपने codes को, where we manage the codes, है ना. हम अपने codes को we can push and pull, so we'll understand those things. The third is the Jira. Okay, we'll understand Jira is one of not that the eatable things which we are aware of the Jira. It's basically a tool where we maintain our project ideas. Okay, everything or related to a project is being maintained with the help of the Jira. Okay, so and the fourth tool will be the Chrome Dev Tools. Okay, everyone might be aware of these Chrome Dev Tools, and if not, then definitely you are at the correct place, where we would be understanding the dev tools which are already there at our Chrome browser. ठीक है. Chrome हमको by default dev tools provide करता है. Will understand those dev tools as well. Okay, fine. Now the npm. Okay, so npm is one of the fifth tool which we would be understanding in this today's session. ठीक है. तो these 5 tools means ये 5 tools, आज हम इसको basically will understand those things. Okay, the next agenda would be the roadmap for becoming a front-end developer. Okay, basically the people have a lot of confusions and dilemma कि like what to choose, है ना, कि क्या हमको choose करना चाहिए, what to choose as a front-end developer things, because there are multiple things, right? You start with the HTML, you start with the CSS, you start with the JavaScript, and then what, right? So we will be understanding the roadmap. हम वो सारी चीजें समझेंगे कि HTML, CSS, JavaScript के बाद हम क्या करेंगे, what we will do after understanding the basics of the front end development things. Okay, the next would be the best practices to think of as a front end engineer, right? Everyone can become a front end engineer where you are familiar with the back end things, you are familiar with the front end things, but what should be the best practices? ठीक है, हमको क्या वो बेस्ट तरीके हैं जो हमको अपनाने चाहिए as a front end engineer? Definitely will basically understand in this today's agenda, and then the Alma Better team will basically walk through their program and all. Okay, so now we'll basically take up the very first front end develop agenda, that is a for this front end development. Okay, many people today also I got a call from one of my like what you can say the my sisters, one of my cousin sisters, and she was basically asking about like what is full stack development course, what is front end development, what is back end development. Many people are nowadays focusing on the reels. Into the reels we can see like the people are talking about Java, the people are talking about JavaScript, the people are talking about the HTML. So what are these things? The people are getting aware but not in the correct path. So we would be guiding you with the today's master class, like what should be the correct path and what is the front end development. Okay, so the front end development focuses onto the user experience. So first of all, as a front end engineer, you should focus onto the user experience. Obviously we have to satisfy the clients, we have to satisfy the people around us for whom we are making the website. हम किसके लिए website बना रहे हैं, we have to basically satisfy those people. Okay, so very first thing, the focus of the front-end development engineer is the user experience. Okay, using the related coding and the design techniques used as a front-end developer build the elements of an application. Okay, everywhere we see a Netflix website. Okay, we see the Amazon websites. We see multiple Hotstar websites. Many people are watching the cricket nowadays, right? So what people can experience not only the user experience of the Hotstar, but along with that, we see multiple people watching the same stream at the same time. There is no such of a load onto the application, how that application is working, how the front end developer like plays a major role in creating those websites where multiple people engages, है ना, जहां पे मल्टीपल पीपल एंगेज हो रहे हैं, उस तरीके की एप्लीकेशंस को मेंटेन करने के लिए फ्रंट एंड पार्ट से फ्रंट एंड डेवलपर का it's a very much basic rule and regulations which we have to focus on to. Okay, in the major trend in the front end development in recent years, there is a lot of growth in the applications for the mobile and the software devices. Definitely, we have seen a lot of growth in the terms of like the applications. We must have seen the IRCTC applications, right? And we are seeing currently the IRCT applications. There is a huge change. Why? Why there is a huge change? Why? Because there's been using the JSP applications. They've been using the in the recent like past 20-25 years back, once we have been booking our applications, there would have been a simple front end application website, a website with a very much less sort of tools where we can have the tatkal booking and all those stuffs, right? But now we can do all those stuffs in the one application with less sort of difficulties, right? So all those changes we have seen in the recent past. And so what basically makes those changes is the help of the front end development that plays a 60% of the part, and the 40% of the part plays in the architecture of the backend. Okay, what timing it is taking to hit the website, what basically how we are getting the things from the backend, all those plays a major role in the things. So definitely we'll answer all those questions also. The people who are raising those hands definitely will be answered in the between also, and at the end of this the series of this. Okay, so definitely there are some common goals which we have to take as a front end developer. First of all, optimize the user experience. Definitely we have to think of the user experience things. So we have to think of the user experience. Okay, there are many tools, guys. There are many tools which a front end developer as come the designer. Okay, we can say them as a designer, not the core front end developer. They takes part in the Figma things. You must have been seeing the Figma tool. Okay, that tool is very much being used nowadays for creating your user experience websites. Okay, nowadays before coding we have to basically create some websites, or basically the pages where the people can see that this will be your look and feel of your website. Okay, so that particular tool is Figma tool. Okay, you can now see also, you can search about Figma. It's a very much common and popular tool for the front end designers come developer. I'm not saying the front end developer as a whole, but I'm saying the front end designer as a whole. Okay, now if you want to be a developer come designer, okay, developer come designer, you have to be familiar with the HTML, JavaScript and the CSS, and you might have been familiar with few of the tags. Like the very popular tags are like body tag, table tag. Okay, so these tags are being maintained with the help of the HTML along with the CSS and the combination of JavaScript. So nowadays HTML, JavaScript and the CSS are the part of life. Whether you are a developer or front-end developer or the back-end developer, everyone starts their journey for a development with these three things. Okay, now the third most popular common goals for a software developer is developing and maintaining the user interface. Like suppose you have used your application, like suppose you are creating your own Amazon website. Okay, very popular thing. You are creating your own Amazon application, and you are showing something to a client prior to the development. Like suppose I'm your client and you are the developer. I wanted to see my look and feel or the user interface of my website. So I will ask you guys to create a sort of a prototype for me before jumping to the main goal or the main coding point, right? So for that we use the many tools. That is one of the Figma tools. The second is basically like the Adobe Photoshops and all. So Adobe have the many tools for the front end designers, where we can have to create, we have to basically create the look and feel or the UI UX of the website. So front end developer along with the few of the front end designing skills inculcates those sort of a like habits for creating a good user interfaces and user experience websites. Okay, I'm not saying that we have to be familiar with only the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript initially, but yeah, few Figma skills, or you can have the Adobe Photoshop or Adobe different tools for becoming a proper front-end developer. Okay, suppose you are in a team of one or a two, and you have to start with a scratch. Okay, so you have to create a Figma designs. You have to think in that perspective that it has a good user interface, and you have to think in the perspective that it has a good HTML and CSS and JavaScript code as well. So you have to be basically familiar with a few designing skills along with the development skills to become a whole front-end developer engineer. Okay, now the fourth goal of a front-end developer is, once you have created your own websites, once you have created your own sort of application, you have to basically fix those bugs and test your usabilities, definitely, right? So unit testing is one of the major sort of the thing which we have to take care while the development. Definitely there might be bugs, there might be everything, so we have to think of as a goal of a front-end developer that we have to take care of those bugs and test for those usabilities. Okay, so this is what the front-end development is. It's the conclusion is we have to focus onto the tools little a bit, 30% onto the tools like Figma and Adobe, and plus we have to focus onto these three things: HTML, JavaScript, CSS initially, to become a front-end developer. Now moving on to the next thing. Now since you are familiar with the HTML, CSS and the JavaScript, now what? Next, what should be the next step for becoming a wholesome front-end developer? Okay, like suppose you can't create your entire application using just the HTML and CSS and the JavaScript. You have 70% of the development knowledge now. Now you have to basically utilize those things in one of the libraries or the frameworks of the JavaScript. Okay, so front-end libraries are used on the client side of the web application, which means they run in the browser, user browser. Definitely, the front-end application is what? It basically runs on the client side. There are two sides of the development, the client side and the server side, right? So what actually runs on the client side is being handled with the help of the front-end libraries and the frameworks. Definitely. Right. So these front-end libraries and the frameworks are often written in the JavaScript. Okay. So you might be familiar with, must have heard about the React.js, you must have heard about the Angular, you must have heard about the Vue.js. So what is React.js? What is Vue.js? What is Angular.js? So the one which with the JS means it is being written in the terms of JavaScript. So before moving on to the libraries and frameworks, you should be familiar with these like HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. So these are the foundation, these are the building blocks for learning either the React or the Angular. Okay, definitely we'll basically learn about what makes different from the Angular to the React, but we should learn that these are the building blocks. These are not the side blocks. These are the building blocks for learning the Angular and the React. Definitely. And they provide a range of features such as the UI components, the animations, the data visualization. You can do anything. You can create any number of Netflix clones, you can create Amazon clones, you can create XYZ clones onto the YouTube. You can take the help from the YouTube. I've been mentoring many of people. They have been created the like the podcast clones, they have created they make my trip clones. So anything you create, you choose the website, you can create those clones with the help of React.js or the AngularJS, depending upon the requirement. Okay, you can have the data visualization, you can have the animations inculcated onto that website, you can have the UI components. You name the component, we will create it. Definitely. So that is what the logic of a front-end developer, right? What we are seeing currently, we can create it by our own self, and it is very much interesting. Okay, it's a very much interesting part for a developer. Like suppose you are a backend developer, you are a front end developer. I'm not saying the backend is not a sort of that much interesting part, or basically it's not a boring part, but for major of the people, the front end development is more like what we can say is more happening, or it's a more sort of craziest thing for many of people, irrespective for the as compared to the back end. Why? Because what you are currently seeing in a Netflix, what you're currently seeing in an Amazon, you can create and see by your own. Right. So that makes a craze in the people to basically go and start with the front end development first initially, and then they move on to the back end development. You can be a wholesome back end developer also. I'm not saying like that, but definitely for major of the people, it's a craziest path to start with the front end development first, and then they move on to the back end development. Okay, so now React is basically one of the front end libraries, and it's very much popular. Sorry, it's very much popular nowadays, and many like you can get the things that many people are like choosing the course and all, and you can also do the same. This moving on to the next libraries, like sorry, the frameworks. The framework is one of the things. Now we should understand what's a library and a framework. The framework is basically the sort of a skeleton that is already been given to us. Like suppose I give you the frame, you have your own data, right? And what is a library? Library is just the sort of the helping hand. Like suppose it's a very much sort of a flexible things in the terms of the libraries. If मैं बोलूं कि library and frameworks में difference क्या है, तो फ्रेमवर्क में आपको ऑलरेडी एक स्केलेटन दे दिया जाता है, एंड यू हैव टू फॉलो दोस थिंग्स. यू हैव ऑलरेडी बीन गिवन द स्केलेटन, यू हैव टू फॉलो दोस थिंग्स. एंड द लाइब्रेरीज में आपको बहुत ज्यादा फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी रहती है. यू हैव द लॉट ऑफ फ्लेक्सिबिलिटीज. यू कैन हैव योर ओन created underlying architecture of your own. ठीक है, they both work in the same way. framework also works in the same way. library भी same तरीके से काम करती है, but framework में इतनी ज्यादा flexibilities you can't get the lot of flexibilities. इतनी ज्यादा flexibilities नहीं होती in terms of the frameworks, but libraries पे बहुत flexibilities होती हैं. You can have the a lot of flexibilities inculcated in one place. So that's why the people have the more inclined things towards the libraries. That is one of the things in React.js. ठीक है, तो React.js में बहुत ज्यादा लोग like interest दिखा रहे हैं. Why? Because it's more is library. You get the flexibility. You have your own learning curves. You have everything. So that's why React.js is more popular, and the learning in terms of the learning skills. Okay, so now I have yeah, sure. I will, Rashmita, definitely I will take care of this, and I will be very much be Hindi and English mix both. Definitely will do that. No worries. So now moving on to the top agenda and the tools in terms of the front end development. Okay. See, I'm not talking about the designing tools, right? There are multiple tools, as I have already told you guys. उसमें से one of the like tools है, like the tool is basically the Figma tool, right? It's a basically the workspace. एक workspace होता है where the people can create their own prototypes, right? Suppose I give you the task, I give you the task for basically suppose to Karthik, I give you the task. Okay, and I ask Karthik to create a very simple make my trip clone. Okay, so what he will do as a front end designer come developer, that he will basically go to the Figma and he will basically create his prototypes, and depending upon the client needs. So who is the client? I am the client. Since I have given the task to Karthik, suppose that I will ask him few things, and I will ask him to basically create the clone of make my trip. So he will basically take the help of the Figma tool to create all those things. Once the prototype is created, once the design is created, once the user interface are created, the pages are created, we move on to the development phase of it. Okay, once the prototypal things are created, we move to the development. So where we do the development, suppose I ask you to create a simple HTML thing or a CSS thing or a JavaScript thing. So where we do that? Where do we code that? We do a coding in Visual Studio Code. It's basically the streamlined code editor, and it's basically been developed by the Microsoft. So the one which is being maintained by such a big company, such a big organization, that is Microsoft, the supportability of many things becomes easy. Okay, like suppose I give you the task for formatting your, like suppose you have written your sort of a code, right? And it's not formatted, it's very untidy, right? It's not itna zyada like proper dikh nahi raha hai. So you can basically format those code with the help of many Visual Studio Code extensions, right? Like suppose in a Google you have many extensions. आपके Google में बहुत सारे extensions होते हैं, right? In a Visual Studio Code also you have many an extensions, right? And a Visual Studio Code is a streamlined code editor with the support for the development operations like task running, debugging. You can do anything. And if you are choosing the development from today, like suppose from today, this particular tool with the Visual Studio Code will be the lifeline of every developer. Every developer, if you're choosing either Angular, you're choosing the front end, you're choosing the back end, you're choosing anything, this particular sort of the tool, this particular sort of the application, you would be utilizing it every second. So this is the very first thing you guys have to install this in your desktops or laptops, any in your environments. Okay, after this installations, after the installation of Visual Studio Code, you can basically use your terminal. You can open the cmd command and you can type code space dot. Once you type this code space dot, the Visual Studio Code will be launched. It is basically a very short command to launch your Visual Studio Code. So in the terminal, once you open the terminal, you have to write this command code space dot. So once you write this, the Visual Studio Code starts running. So that is basically the one thing you have to install as a developer, not only as a front-end developer, but as a developer. Now, as I have told, the Visual Studio Code has multiple sort of, just a second. I'm basically showing you one thing. So see, this is basically the UI of a Visual Studio Code. The people who are not that much familiar with the development or the front-end development or the back-end development, neither of the things. This is basically the UI, what you get once you do the code space dot. Okay, after doing the code space dot in the terminal, you will get this particular UI where you will see multiple things. The very first thing is Explorer. The second thing is search. You can search anything in the files or what. You can have the extensions. So this is basically uh, the one of the most important arena or the domain in this particular UI, where you have to install the multiple extensions for making your development easy. आपको अगर development अपनी easy बनानी है, तो you have to basically install this Visual Studio Code, and after that you have to basically make the help of these extensions to basically get yourself more familiar and comfortable with the coding. So very first sort of the extension that is basically the prettier. It is actually the code formatter. Like suppose you have your code written, आपने अपना code लिखा है HTML में, आपने अपना code लिखा है CSS में, right? And you have written all your codes in HTML, CSS, JavaScript and all. Now you want to format that. The very first thing what the people without this extension will do, like they will go one by one to the every line and they will use the backspace and will do all those stuff. But suppose your code is of 1000 lines, okay, 2000 lines, 3000 lines, so it will basically consume an entire day to format your like the file or the code, right? But that is not the point. For that particular perspective, inside the VS Code you have multiple extensions for the formatting. So one of the extension is Prettier. Okay, it's basically a code formatter, and it not only formats the HTML, CSS, JavaScript codes, it formats multiple codes which have been mentioned over here. Like suppose HTML code, Vue code, Angular code, okay, Amber and Glimmer or GraphQL. So basically, the what you name, basically they format it. Okay, so what you name, like suppose you are creating a React application, they can basically format that. If you're naming the HTML like application, you can format it. So what you name, they will format it. So it is one of the best sort of the extension the people use it. Okay, the next extension is the Git lens. Okay, any of the developers, if you are a developer and using the Visual Studio Code, these 2 and 3, like I will name HTML boilerplate also one of the most used boiler like extension for the further things. But yeah, these particular things and the extensions will be used by many people, like 90-95% people will use all those things. Now what is git lens? Like suppose you are pushing your web application, like suppose I give the task to 5 people, okay, and they are working onto the one project. Okay, like suppose X pushes one code to the git. And what is a git? Like anyone knows what is a git? Anyone knows what is a git? Git is actually nothing where we push the code. Push the code means where we place the code. Okay, definitely many people work in a company in one project. Like suppose 10 people, 10,000 people, 15,000 people work in one project. So how the people contribute to the project, how the people interact with the multiple things in one using one project is basically the Git. Okay, Git is basically the one place, one source where through which we maintain the code, where through which we maintain and manage the code. So Git is one of the most popular tool, which we will be basically learning in the upcoming like tools of the top 5 tools, one of the top 5 tools. But yeah, the Git lens is basically the extension in the VS Code which helps to maintain the Git from the Visual Studio Code itself. ओके, फ्रॉम वन प्लेस दैट इज अ विजुअल स्टूडियो कोड, हम एक ही प्लेस से विजुअल स्टूडियो कोड से ही गिट को मैनेज कर सकते हैं. राइट, वी कैन मैनेज द विजुअल स्टूडियो द गिट थ्रू द विजुअल स्टूडियो कोड with this extension git lens. That is why it is an extension means that makes a life easy, that makes a life of a developer easy. So that extension which we use it for the git is the git lens. Okay, and moving on to the third one, that is the HTML boilerplate. Okay, like suppose you have to create an HTML application, you have to create a very simple HTML page. So what the people do? They will start with the very basics, right? So to basically the save the time, to basically not allow the people to waste more time onto writing the basics of the code, we have the boilerplate already created. Sorry, just a second. We already have the boilerplate created, which basically, sorry, we have the boilerplate created. So what is a boilerplate? Boilerplate means it is already the template created. Okay, already the template is created. Now you can see this GIF, right? What in this GIF, what the people is doing, what they are doing is like, just a second. Now you can manage this thing. Let them complete this thing and I will show you the main point. Right. Yeah, now see, they are typing HTML5 boilerplate. Now directly you get entire particular code written. Right now, what the people are doing, they are just making the changes in the required lines. Right, line number 12, they have made the changes. Right now, what they are doing, line number 18, they are making the changes. So boilerplate is nothing. The template of the HTML is already been created with the help of this extension. So the get lens along with Prettier and the HTML boilerplate is a best combo you can get from the Visual Studio as a front-end developer. Okay, from the VS Code perspective, if you have installed these 3 minimum required things, and there are many things, right? There are many extensions. You name the extension, you will get it. Like suppose Vim, right? Suppose you get a Vim, or Vim is nothing but a code editor. Like suppose if anyone is familiar with the Linux, okay, if anyone is familiar with the Raspberry Pi or the Linux, तो उसमें क्या होता है, you get the Vim as the code editor, so you can install that Vim also, right? So if you want to install the Vim, you just have to click onto the install, right? It will start the installation and it will be, and you can actually uninstall any of the extensions also. Like suppose you want to uninstall this Vim, I press the uninstall, it got uninstalled. If you want to install it again, it will install it. So anyhow you can manage the extensions of the VS Code through this UI itself. Okay, so it is one of the great tools you can all take care of. Okay, now I have told you about the git lens, I have told you about the Prettier is an optionated like code editors, and you have to basically parse your code and reprint it and with own rules and regulations and all those stuff. Okay, now we have talked about the one tool. Okay, now moving on to the second tool, which I have explained you about the Git. Okay, like suppose you have been given a team of 5 people or 7 people. Okay, very simple, right? So have you wondered any time that how those 7 people will contribute एज अ डेवलपर, राइट? सपोज हमारे पास 7 पीपल हैं और एक प्रोजेक्ट है, तो वो उन 7 पीपल कैसे कंट्रीब्यूट करेंगे वो एक प्रोजेक्ट में, एक रेपोजिटरी पे? वो मेंटेनेबिलिटी कौन मेंटेन करता है, वो मेंटेनेबिलिटी कौन हैंडल करता है? गिट, राइट? All those things are being handled with the help of Git, right? Git is a place, is basically used for the source code management, right? Is basically used for the source code management. आप अपने कोड को मैनेज कर सकते हो with the help of Git. Okay, now it is a free and the open source version control system. Like suppose you are nowadays getting the different versions of Zomato, you are getting the different versions of Netflix to update it, right? So how these version controls, how these code updates, how these things are being maintained with, are these being maintained with the help of Git, right? And is used to handle the small to the very large projects efficiently, right? If you have a project of one, suppose you're creating an individual project, so you always you use a Git, right? Definitely you will use a Git, you will push the code and blah blah things, you will do it. You are handling the project of 10,000 people, 1,000 people, 500 people. Git is again the one of the best open source tool which you have to take care of. Okay, so Git is used to track the changes in the source code. Like suppose I have given the task to Karthik, suppose, and to basically push the code, right? Push the code means what, how he has basically done the changes in the code will be pushed to some place, right? Definitely, that's why that is how I will basically see that Karthik has made the changes, right? And suppose I made the changes in the code and I push it to my like Git, so suppose Bhavesh will be able to see like, yeah, these are the changes, and the Gaurav have basically make the changes in this, all those things, right? So anything, the how you are making the tracks of the changes in the code and blah blah things will be maintained with the help of the Git. Okay, the what are the now the features? I'm telling you the features. The features are the tracks history. Okay, suppose I make multiple changes and I want to see on which date I basically made the change to which line of code. So all sort of history can be maintained with the help of this Git. It's a free and the open source. Next, it supports the non-linear development, right? And it supports the collaboration. Definitely, the people will collaborate and develop together. Like suppose myself, Karthik, Bhavesh, Deepa, everyone create a team and basically create a project. So everyone can track each other history, how much line of code they have committed, how much, what is their goals and all can be maintained with the help of this Git. Okay, and the branching is easier. Definitely you will create your own branches and all. So I will basically tell you about what is a Git. So let me know once my uh, screen is visible with the Git, so everyone can see this particular thing, right? Like this is a Git. Okay, so it is a very simple sort of a project management or basically the code source thing. So this is my profile. Like suppose I have a very test profile 123 Gaurav Sadani, and over here you can see the repositories. Repository means project. ठीक है, तो इसमें repository का मतलब होता है projects. Okay, you can create n number of projects. Like suppose I create a very simple project. Like suppose for creating a project, what you have to do, you have to go to this repositories. Okay, suppose you don't have any sort of project or repository created, so you can go to this new, click onto this new button. Okay, now what you have to do, you have to basically name the project. Like suppose you have to name the repository, you have to name the project. Suppose I name this project as Alma test. Okay, I name this as Alma test and now it is available. Means like suppose the name is already been taken, so you can't take that name, but this name is available, I can take this name. Okay, now my repository name is Alma test, and you can mark this as a public or a private. Suppose by default it is public and you have to choose it as it is. If it is you want to private, you can make it private. If you want to make it public, you can make it public, and you can click onto this button, click create repository. Okay, once the repository is created, now what you have to do, this is basically the URL which will be shown to you guys. This is basically the URL that will be shown to you guys, and you have to basically copy this URL for local code management. Like suppose you want to code, right? You want to code in Visual Studio Code, and you have to push that code in the Git repository. So how you will maintain that? So for that you have to like clone this particular thing. You have to get this particular entire thing, the repository thing, onto your local machine, onto your desktop. ठीक है, तो आपको वो सारी चीजें अपने डेस्कटॉप लाइक रिमोट से अपने लोकल मशीन में, अपने डेस्कटॉप में पुट करनी पड़ेंगी. फॉर ऑल दोस थिंग्स यू हैव टू कॉपी दिस, ओके, एंड फॉलो दी स्टेप्स व्हाट is given to you guys. Okay, suppose you are initializing your project for the very first time, so you have to do git init. Definitely, so like suppose this project is not, is already, it's created now, right? It is created in the remote application, it is created in the remote thing, right? You want to use this particular thing in the local machine. You have to initialize this in the local machine. You have to do the git init at the very first time. Now you want to, let me do it for you guys. Okay, so my screen is visible, right, with the Visual Studio Code. So what I will do is I will open a new terminal in this. Okay, first of all, yeah. Now what I will do, I will do git. First of all, I will check this. What is my directory? So I will ls this. Okay, and I am getting this applications, documents, libraries, music, public, desktop, and all. What I will do, I will create a new directory with the Alma test, right? mkdir. Okay, and I will do Alma test. This is the new directory I am creating it. Okay, now you can see this directory as Alma TES, right? So I will do cd Alma test. So this is basically the basic Linux commands we have to use in our daily life. Like suppose cd command, remove rm command, and mkdir command, ls command. So these are the Linux commands which I am currently using to make my development easy. Right? To make my things easy, I'm using my Linux commands. Okay. So now I'm inside this Alma test, right? Now what I have to do? I have to do git init. Okay. I have to follow the same steps which are being mentioned over here. Okay, now like suppose I can skip all those things. I have to skip this add, I have to skip git commit, I have to skip this thing. What I have to move next to is this git remote. Okay, because these things will be done later. Okay, these things will be done later once I have my code ready. Once I have my HTML code either ready, I have my CSS either code ready, or I have either one of the things of my code development ready, I can do with these things. But now since I don't have anything to commit or add to this particular repository, what my next step would be adding this with the remote origin. Okay, so I will just copy that and paste it over here. Okay, and once I press the enter, I can use this git status command. Okay, so on this particular thing, you will get the information of the current branch. Okay, suppose we have one branch by default. We have one branch by default, that is main branch. Okay, that is main branch. Okay, so that git status will basically tell you the current status of the repository. So you are currently on branch main. Okay, you are on branch main and you have to basically, and now this particular repository is ready to take your changes, right? Now you can make your changes ready and you can push to this repository. Okay, so there are multiple commands which we have to take care before the initialization and all those stuffs. Okay, so one of the commands we have taken care now was git init for initializing the repository, and git remote add origin. Okay, so git add remote add origin means you have to basically add the URL of that repository to your basically the local thing. See, this is very tough for the people who are not that much familiar with the development, but I am sure that like these things, if you are familiar with the prior understanding before the development, it will be easy for you guys in the coming future. Right. I also took one year entirely for understanding what is a Git. And I am sure that in this 2 hours, at least 5 to 10% is getting understood. ठीक है, तो मैं वापस एक बार हिंदी में भी बता देता हूँ फॉर द पीपल हु आर नॉट दैट मच फेमिलियर विद द इंग्लिश एज इफ नाउ. ठीक है, तो हमको एक गिट रेपोजिटरी रिमोट पे बनानी होती है फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल. ठीक है, वो न्यू बटन को क्लिक करके वो रेपोजिटरी से हमको एक यूआरएल क्रिएट होता है जो हम बेसिकली यहाँ पे ऐड करते हैं अपने लोकल मशीन में. ऑब्वियसली थिंक लाइक दैट इफ यू हैव द रिमोट application ready and you don't have any connection between your remote and the local. Remote matlab online, right? The repository which is online or the cloud, right? And local means your local desktop machine, right? So we have to create that link, we have to add the origin of that remote to the local. So the command for adding that link, for establishing that link, is git remote add origin with the URL. Okay, and after that, for checking the status, for checking the git status, you have to hit this command git status, and it will show you the status on which branch currently you are, or in the coming future, suppose you have made any changes, you have added the files, you have added the folders, all those informations will be given to you guys using this git status command. And there are multiple commands which we will be basically taking care in this particular slideshow. Okay, so now we have make the use of git init now, right? Initializing an existing directory as a git repository. Obviously, what we did, right? We initialize an existing directory as a git repository. Okay, now suppose you want to push your code for the very first time, right? Suppose how your system will recognize you as a git user, right? So for all those things, you have to config git config hyphen global user dot name. Let's suppose I have my name as Gaurav. I have my email as garv.hadani. Right. So I basically configure that for the very first time, and this is the very first time. You don't have to do it every time. Right. So this is the command git config hyphen global space user dot name. With that inside that in the double quotes, you have to put the name, right? Your git username. Okay, once that git username is ready, you have to do the second thing is git config hyphen global space user dot email space your email address. So this will basically set an email address that will be associated with each history marker. Means suppose you are adding your changes for the very first time. How your desktop will understand these are the changes, these are blah blah things. So with the help of these commands, it's been set it for the very first time, and you don't have to take care every time. Okay, this will be done like automatically once you do it for the very first time. Okay, now the fourth command is the git clone. Okay, and git clone with the URL. Like suppose you want to clone the remote repository to the local environment, right? You want to clone that entire thing that using that URL to your local machine, right? So you can use this command as git clone space URL. Okay, like suppose I have this repository, okay, I want to use my I want to basically set up this particular repository in my local environment. So how I will do that? I will do one thing. I will create, suppose I create one more directory, mkdir. Okay, mkdir, and I create new cloned repository dir. Okay, this is my new directory which I have created for showing you guys the uh, clone thing, like how the git clone command works. Okay, so I will basically go to this new directory, and I will use this command git space clone space the URL which I have copied from the remote thing, right? So you can see cloning into Alma test, right? How the desktop knows what is the name of the directory. So everything is taken care by with the help of this URL link. With the help of this URL link, and you can use this command git clone space URL, which you get after creating the repository, and you can get this command working with this cloning into Elma test. Now you see you have this Elma test repository created. Okay, now you can basically work onto this desktop, make the changes and push the code. ओके तो पहली बार में हमको क्या करना पड़ता है, या तो हम git init करें, either we do the git init command for initializing the empty repository, or we do git clone. ठीक है, so these two ways are there to initialize your repository from remote to the local. ठीक है, एक रिमोट repository से हमको लोकल में अपने चीजों को लिंक करना है, अपने को चेंजेस एग्जीक्यूट करने. सो वी डू ईदर git init for the first time or the git clone command. Okay, so we can do by the either of the things. Okay, now moving on to the next command, that will be basically the git status. Okay, the git status already we know, right? We have seen how the git status shows the first of all the branch name. Okay, by default repository have the branch as main. ठीक है, बाय डिफॉल्ट हर एक रेपोजिटरी के खुद की ब्रांचेस होती हैं. ठीक है, डेफिनेटली अगर ब्रांचेस नहीं होंगी तो हाउ वी विल बी बेसिकली टेकिंग केयर ऑफ, लाइक सपोज आई हैव माय ओन branch, Bhavesh have his own branch, Deepa have his own branch. Okay, everyone work on their own branch, and we can merge all those branch in one place. That is suppose main, right? Deepa can create this her own branch, right? And Dilip can create his own branch, and Milan can create his own branch, Raj Kumar can create his own branch, right? Sania can create her own branch. So and everyone can create his and her own branches, and they can merge all their codes in one branch. Like suppose मैंने एक branch बनाई और संस्कृति ने एक branch बनाई, और एक दोनों branches को एक में merge कर दिया main branch. ठीक है, तो that is how the git works. Okay, that is how the git works. हम अपने अपने branches नए नए बनाएंगे, will create the own branches of our own and will push it at one place. This is how the git works. Okay, is that fine? Okay, the next command will be git add file. Okay, git add file. Like suppose I have created my own file, like txt file. Suppose I have created my txt file. So let me show off one thing. Now what my plan would be, yeah, now what my plan would be, I am using like this. I have created like suppose a new file, like suppose txt dot, like suppose I have created this file name as alma. Okay, alma.txt. Okay, now I've been making this change. Okay, alma test. Okay, now I'm opening this alma test. Just a second. Alma mates, alma.txt. Okay, fine. I'm opening this. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm making a very simple change in this file. Like suppose I'm making hello. Okay, this is not opening. Yeah, fine. Like suppose I have written hello world. Okay, hello world, and like this, something like this. Okay, now what I'm doing is I have been I want to push this change. Okay, like suppose Deepa have written this hello world and she wants to push her changes from the local to the remote repository, right? So what I will do git status first, right? I will check what is my current branch name. So my current branch name is main. Okay, as we already know, the current branch is only main. Right now it also shows that alma.txt in red color. Okay, so why this alma.txt is being displayed and being shown in red color, just because we have made the current changes and it is ready to be pushed. It in red color, it means it is ready to be pushed and commit first of all. So for committing, for pushing it for the first time, what we have to do, we have to use this git add command. Okay, so git space add space dot. Dot means every file which is inside this directory. If we don't want to write this dot, we can directly write the file name. So my file name is alma.txt. Okay, now if I do git status, I can see this in green color. Green color means it is been added. It is been added. Like suppose it is a rocket. Okay, the propulsion has been added. You just have to ignite it now. Okay, the propulsion उसमें already सारे like gases add हो चुके हैं उसको आगे बढ़ाने के लिए. You just have to basically make use of those things, right? So after the git add, after adding that file for the next step, you have to basically commit this file. Okay, for committing you can write the message. Obviously you have to write the message. Like suppose abhi maine aaj currently I'm pushing it, right? I'm committing it. Tomorrow suppose in the same branch, in the same file I'm committing something else, or kuch anything went wrong in between, right? So I can make sure that at what message I have done what, right? Like suppose I can track with those messages, right? So suppose I'm currently making the changes this alma text file. So what I will write the commit message as git space commit hyphen m, and inside that I will write the message the first commit. Okay, the first commit with alma. Okay, so this is my very first message which I will write while the committing the file. Now once the commit is ready, you will see that, yeah, you will see that you will see this particular thing has been changed, one file changed and one insertion being done. Now after this you have to do git status. See, git status basically is a good practice to do. It's a good to have thing in every developer who are using the git. Why? Because it basically makes you confirm that your things has been the changes has been done or not. Now, since we have done the git status, now we can see only the branch name and nothing to commit. Why? Because we have already done the git add and we have done the git commit. Now what we have to do, we have to do the push, right? Obviously what, why we are doing all those stuff is for the push, right? हम अपना चाहते हैं कि ये सारी चीजें एक रेपोजिटरी में स्टोर हो जाएं जो हम यहाँ पे चेंजेस कर रहे हैं. That is why we are doing all those type of things, right? So for all those type of things, next step we have to do git push origin, and now here you have to give the branch name, right? The git space push space origin space branch name. So my branch name is main, right? So once that has been done, so it will basically redirect me to the a page where I have to authorize my git, right? You can do one thing more. You can use that git config command, or else if you don't give the git config command, it will redirect you to the very first page where you have to give the credentials like the username, email, and password. So better that without this you configure it for the very first time. Since this is the new laptop, so like the configuration is not been done, and this is for the very first time, so it might take some time, but definitely make sure that you are taking care for the uh, pushing and popping of the things. Let us move further because it might take some time. So meanwhile what we can do, do we have any questions in between? Hello. Hello. Okay, I guess it might take some time. So what we can do, we can take the rest for 1 minute. Okay, so everyone can go through these commands meanwhile. Okay, they can go with these commands meanwhile, and I will take the break for 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll continue at 9:10. Okay, is that fine? Narendra, is that fine? We take a very short break in for 5 minutes.
We can take 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, sure, sure. We can take the break. And meanwhile, guys, please go to the commands. You can search over the internet meanwhile and see the commands like git add, git commit, git push, and git status, and all those basic commands. And if not, then basically we'll understand it further also. Okay. Hello everyone. Thank you for this sort of a break. Sunil Kumar, I guess you have a doubt. As a fresher and non-tech background, can I be able to secure a job in IT? Definitely, yeah. Sunil, I guess the last month I took one of the sessions in Alma Better, where the people from many non-tech background, and definitely I too basically take the classes and mentorship for many people who are from the non-tech background, or from the the people who are not know much about the computer science and all, and they are doing good, and they are creating websites, they are creating the front end websites, they are creating the back end development things. So definitely you have the brains, you have the mind, if you have the gut feeling, definitely you can do anything, right? So you are the good platform. Just take care of it and get the good knowledge and understanding. So doesn't means like you're a fresher or a non-tech background person. So you can't do a job in IT. Definitely you can do a good job in IT as well. Okay, so we'll move further with the next tool. So the very first thing I wanted to understand, since it will GitHub is not loading its login page yet. So what I wanted to show you guys is the get push thing, right? Get push means कि आप the people are basically making the changes from the local, and they are basically able to see in the repository itself. Okay, so that I wanted to showcase all those things. So next command will be the git push, as I have told you guys. Okay, it basically transmit local branch commits to the remote repository branch. Okay, the git pull means, suppose Deepa have make some changes. Okay, she have made some changes, and I wanted to see what changes she have made, and I wanted to get those changes onto my local repository also, right? So what I will do is I will take the pull, and once the pull is done, once the pull is complete, I will see what changes the Deepa have made, and I will get those changes onto my local repository also. Okay, like suppose that is how the git works, right? Like suppose multiple people work in one repository at one time, so there will be a conflict, right? सब एक ही जगह पे एक ही टाइम पे काम कर रहे हैं, है ना? तो definitely conflicts होंगे, right? So to manage all those things, we create multiple branches, right? That is what I have explained, right? We can create a branches by our names, by our task, right? Suppose I give you the task for creating a header, or I give you the task for creating the sidebar, right? So we will get the branch name as git checkout space uh, sidebar, or suppose git checkout space Gaurav, right? So by your name you can create a branch, by your task you can create your branch, and you can work onto your branch. And once you want to basically push your code at one place, you can do that, right? So definitely you can do that. So this is how the git works. And if you are a developer, the git will basically be the very first thing you will be learned of, and it is expected that you are known of this tool as well. So it is one of the most used tools. Okay. Now the third, the most important tool is the Jira tool. Okay, so how the Jira is being used for the front end development, and it's not basically only for the front end, but yeah, as a whole, it is one of the most used and popular tool. You guys would be using it. Like suppose I want that. Suppose I'm a client. Okay, I'm giving you a very simple example. I'm a client and I want to manage my project, daily based projects and all. How I will do it, right? I will take the help of a tool which basically be will which basically make my things easy, right? I will give 5 tasks, one to Deepa, one to Gaurav, one to Harshita and XYZ, and I will basically see what tasks they have done, what tasks they have to do, what tasks will be done in the next particular after few days. So everything will be managed with the help of this Jira tool. It's basically a to-do tool, right? Like suppose you create a to-do application, right? Every task by default comes in like to-do. You can push those things one by one to in progress. And once the task is done, you can move all those things again back to the done status. Okay, so I'm showing you the basically the UI of the Jira tool. Okay, like suppose your project name is Beyond Gravity. Okay, your project name is Beyond Gravity. These are the people who are contributing to the project. Okay, these are the people who are contributing to the project, and this will be basically the tool where we would be managing everything regarding to the project. The to-do list in progress. Like suppose I give task to Deepa, or I give task to myself, that I will do this particular task, implement feedback collector, right? I want to basically see the progress of this. As a client, I want to see the progress of these tasks. So I will basically move first of all this to do to in progress, and after that in progress to done, right? Once that is been done, we can mark those particular things to done. so that the client can understand, the people can understand, the owner can understand the task has been done on which date, by which people, who are the people indulge in all those steps, right? Suppose my task is of high priority, so my if the high priority is given, means that this red mark, arrow up marks have been given, right? So this particular Jira tool is not a very simple tool. It's a tool which basically manage everything. It's an agile project management tool. Agile means that the growth is being done day by day. Agile means the growth is being done day by day perspective. Okay, the Jira tool is an agile project management tool that supports any agile methodology, be it by Scrum, Kanban, or your own unique flavor. Okay, like suppose in the last time, 10 to 15 years back, the project were being developed using waterfall model. Waterfall model means, like, I suppose I'm a client, I give tasks to the group of 10 people and I give my requirements at one time, and at the end, like 4 to 5 months later, I have the meeting with you guys to understand the project, how much the project is being completed. So using that waterfall model, what challenges were being faced was, like, first of all, the requirements of the client were not met properly. Okay, so because of that, because in between 4 to 5 months, many people might have the discussions or confusions in between and all. So that was the waterfall model crons, right? Now the agile project management came. Agile means nowadays 100% companies are using agile as their methodology to create their own projects. Okay, so Jira is basically an agile project management tool, the tool which manage those agile project management things. Okay, and from the agile boards, you can have the backlog. Backlog means, I suppose, what task I have to do in this 10 to 15 days, all those things, roadmaps, reports. Reports means, like, suppose last sprint, how much hours I worked, what task I have done, how many tasks I have completed. Everything will be maintained with the help of this Jira tool. And why I have written this as an Atlassian tool? Atlassian is a company which basically built and created this Jira. You can basically search this particular company. Atlassian is a very big company. It's not a very small company. It's a very big company, and it have multiple like projects. It have a multiple tools. One of those tools is Jira. Okay, and 99% of the company use this Jira as a tool for agile project management. Okay, so it's a very big tool. And what are the features of Jira? Now, talking about the features of Jira. So standard tool for teams of all sizes. Like suppose I have a team of 5, or someone has a team of 5,000 or 5 lakh, sorry, 5 lakhs. So the Jira will be okay and good for every team sizes. Okay, simple licensing model. Every tool, everything has a licensing model. Okay, licensing means you can use it for these particular number of people and all. So it has a very simple licensing model. It is very lightweight tool. It has no sort of maintainability, low maintenance cost, easy to use and intuitive, better visibility, increased productivities, and it has a very big like upper hand of the Atlassian community. So Atlassian, as I told, is a very big company, and it has an upper convey of the very big company that is Atlassian. So you don't have to worry about the its supportability and maintainability. Everything is being maintained with the help of the Atlassian community. Okay, and it's a very good tool. You can also download it, or you can have it on the website also. You can see what is Jira, and you can create your own project, and you can divide your work accordingly, right? So that is what you can do. Okay, now moving on to the next thing, that is the fourth tool, that is the Chrome Dev Tools. Okay, so the Chrome Dev Tools, like suppose, okay, so the Chrome Dev Tools, like suppose, in a very simple thing, if I inspect this, okay, what you have to do, this is a Chrome browser, right? This is a Chrome browser. You have to right click, go to the inspect. Okay. And once you inspect this, you will see many tabs, right? Elements, console, sources, network, performance, memory, application security, and blah, blah. Right. So this particular entire thing which you see, which is visible once you inspect it, is known as a Chrome Dev tool. Okay, Chrome Dev tool is basically the tool which helps the developer with many things. Okay, so there are multiple tabs: element, console, sources, network, performance, memory, application, and all. So out of these, element, console, and sources, network, and application. Okay, these 5 tabs will be very helpful for you in the coming front-end development perspective. Okay, like suppose I click onto this very first button. If I click onto this button, okay, once you see this button, I'm increasing the size. Okay, I hope this is now visible to everyone. What I will do, once I click onto this, I can go to any particular element. What is this? These are the UI front-end development UI elements, right? Once I click onto this, I can go to any of the elements onto this particular application. So if I click onto this, okay, and I can see multiple HTML elements which are visible over here. What are these? These are basically nothing but the HTML elements. Okay, in which perspective the HTML is being used in this particular browser, we can see using this particular elements tab. Okay, I guess anyone has a question? Anyone has a question? Anyone has a question? Okay, okay, fine, fine, fine. So, very first thing, you will be basically understanding this in a Chrome Dev tool is this element. ठीक है? जब आप कोई भी like browser पे जाओगे, like suppose if I go to this particular repository browser, okay, to inspect this, to open the Chrome Dev tools, you have to basically inspect this. Okay, once you right click onto this, you will get this inspect thing. Okay, and you click onto this very first button and you want to see anything like element or what, you have to basically click on this and hover that particular element, right? Once you hover that, you will basically get the information how that HTML is created, what are the class names, what are the blah blah things. So if you are familiar with these class names on tags and anchor tags and all, you will be able to understand like हाउ द डेवलपमेंट इज क्रिएटेड. ठीक है, जब तक आप कोई भी क्लोन एप्लीकेशन देख रहे हो, लाइक सपोज यू आर क्रिएटिंग अ क्लोन ऑफ नेटफ्लिक्स और यू आर क्रिएटिंग द क्लोन ऑफ यूट्यूब, राइट? यू कैन go to this inspect element thing and you can learn many things from that particular website. ठीक है, आप you can do one thing, you can go to amazon.in, okay, click on to the right, inspect that website and see like what are the tags they have used, how their tag is created for logo, how the things has been created. So see, once you click onto this and you go to this particular element, right? So you can see every information means this is div, like suppose this is giving div.app header. So div.app header means this is the div tag, this is an HTML container with a class name as app header global bar. Yeah. So if you are familiar with these particular Chrome dev tools and you are familiar with little bit of HTML and CSS, you will be able to understand how the applications are created and how you can learn many things from different websites. ठीक है, तो इसीलिए we say that dev tools are one of the most like most used tools by many people to understand the development and to do the further development also. Okay, now the next thing is console. ठीक है, console will be helpful once you are basically using the JavaScript, right? Like suppose you want to get the information of the window or anything. So what you have to do, like suppose you have to do console.log window. right? So window will basically give you the information of everything, right? So current browser, what is a browser? Like suppose you have opened your application on phone, or you have opened your application or a browser, like using a laptop or a desktop. So every information you can get this using this particular console tab. On this console tab you should have the basic knowledge of JavaScript. That after that only you would be able to use this console tab, or basically the Chrome DevTools on the console tab. Okay, next will be networks. Okay, so network means once you suppose refresh this application. Okay, suppose you refresh this application, you see multiple network calls, right? What are the network calls? How are you only the front end developer, or you are thinking of becoming a back end developer? Suppose if you are becoming as a full stack engineer and you have the basic knowledge of how the front end is related to back end and how the front end is linked to back end, so you will be understanding there is a concept of APIs, application programming interface. So all the things what you see in this network tab is nothing but an API. API is basically the interface between a client and a server, or we can say between a front end and a back end. And obviously, we would be needing a bridge, right? There is a sort of a setu which in between the front end and the back end, which we call them as an API. So definitely on this network tab of Chrome Dev Tools, you would be basically seeing multiple API calls, like starts in an API, or you can say collector is an API, or these, what are these? These are an API. So once you are familiar with little bit of development and either the front end or the back end, as a back end engineer, you have to create the APIs, and as a front end engineer, you have to consume those APIs. And that is how the front end and back end works. If you are using the backend, you have to create the APIs either in Python or using the Java or using the JavaScript or anything. And or if you are a front-end engineer, you have to basically use and consume these APIs. Okay, that is fine. Now moving on to the application. So application means how the client is storing something. As you are familiar, your browser is storing some things, right? Once you clear the cache, you clears everything, your client storage is deleted, right? So this is the same client storage, right? So one of the familiar storage is local storage. You might be familiar with the session storage. Like suppose you open the ICTC application, after 15 minutes it get automatically logouts, right? So how all those things are managed with the help of session storage, right? Session storage means it has the storage only for a particular session, for what time it's been perspective. Like suppose once the user is not active onto the browser, only for 15 minutes it gets active. After that, it gets log out, right? So all those things are being managed with the help of this application tab, right? So out of all of these tags, elements tags, which shows you the HTML elements, and you can hover at any HTML element of the application where you want to. Now the console means you have been familiar with the JavaScript things, and you can have the information of entire thing like window and all those things. So you can see every information of all those things in the console, right? Moving on to the network tab basically gives you information about the APIs, right? API is nothing but the application programming interface, and it's basically the interface between the front end and the back end, right? एक बीच में एक link provide करता है between the front end and the back end. Okay, now the last and the most important is the application, right? Over here we have the local storage, the session storage, and all those things. Okay, so this is all about the Chrome DevTools. Okay, this is the DevTools. Okay, is that fine? Now moving on to the slides, we have the Chrome DevTools, a joint set of web developer tools built in the Google Chrome browser. Okay, it's a powerful toolkit that lets you inspect, edit, and debug your code and measures your page performance. Suppose you have created a front-end application, right? You want to measure the performance of the application. You want to measure many things, so you can use this performance tag also. And performance is the tag where like suppose you click refresh this application, right? You can record your application at what time it is basically reloading the application, what is basically the statistics of the application. So everything you will get in the sort of this Venn diagram thing, right? So this particular, sorry, the pie chart thing, you will be basically understanding in how many milliseconds suppose it like reloads the application, and all those sort of information you will get in this performance tab. Okay, so mostly you would be using elements, consoles, and the networks and applications, and performance like suppose 0.1% or 0.2%, but you should be familiar with all those tabs. Okay, is that fine? Okay, now why do we need the Chrome DevTools? The DevTools gives you the powerful tool for inspecting and editing your code. With DevTools, you can quickly find and fix any errors in your code. Definitely. If you want to fix any code or anything sort of a things, you can definitely do the same. Like suppose I go to this repository thing, right? I inspect this particular thing, right? And I suppose want to change this name from Elma test to suppose something else. What I will do? I will make the change here itself. See, from Elma test, it's now been Gaurav. But this is very local thing. If I again refresh this application, it will fetch the information directly from the website, means from the server. So suppose you want to make any local sort of a changes, you can directly make the changes and see. Right. So like suppose I want to make this change from Elma test to suppose. Right. So suppose now you can see this, you have changed that name from Elma to welcome. Or suppose you want to change the background color, suppose of this, right? So what you can do, you can make the change like this. See, now you are being able to make the change directly from this dev tool itself. So how this dev tool is very helpful for your debugging, for your testing, for your basic coding. So this is very useful without going to the Visual Studio Code of this application, without using the local changes, without making the local changes, I can directly check and make the changes from the dev tool itself. Right? We have to do just one thing. Click onto the very first button. Okay, go to the element stack. Okay, just find the element where it is. Okay, and make the changes. Okay, make the color as, suppose you want to make the color as white. Right, you can directly make the color as white. Okay, but all those changes are local itself, means you are not making any server end changes, right? So once you refresh the changes, it will be reverted back to the main change. Okay, is that fine? Is that fine for everyone? Please, over the chat, everyone can say yes also. Yes, once you have anything to ask. Okay, so over here PPTs we have given you the details about different sections. So element panel, console panel, source panel, the network panel, performance panel. So these are the panels which I have already given you the sort of a little practical information. So element panel lets you inspect and edit the HTML and the CSS of your page. And with the elements panel, you can make the changes to your code and see those changes immediately reflected on the page. Obviously, we have inspected the HTML and CSS of the page, and we have made the changes directly, like background color, and all those stuff. We can directly make the changes. Now the console panel lets you to run the JavaScript code on your page. Definitely, as I have told you, the JavaScript code can be run on the console panel. With the console, you can test the code snippets or debug your code. You have suppose created a very simple JavaScript code or a snippet. You can directly run those on the console of any browser. You will get the output. Okay. The sources panel let you view and edit your pages JavaScript and CSS code. With the sources panel, you can set the breakpoints, and it's not that much of use, but yeah, if you want, you can go through this sources panel as well. Now the most important one is the network panel. Let's you see how your page is loading. Definitely, right? With the network panel, you can see what sources are being loaded. Means sources over here means APIs, right? We have seen the multiple APIs. Once we refresh the page, you see multiple APIs are being loaded, right? These are the resources which are being loaded. And how long each resource takes a load. Definitely, you can see multiple APIs will take multiple different times, right? So you can see which API is taking which how much amount of time through this network panel. Okay, now the performance panel lets you see how quickly your page is loading and rendering. Definitely, once you reload the page and start the performance tab thing, you will see how much long does it takes to reload and render the application. Okay, now the application panel. Okay, lets you inspect the application state of your page. Means there are multiple application storages. You can use either local storage, you can use the cookies, you can use the session storage. Now suppose you must have seen the applications which are asking you the cookies settings, right? Like suppose allow the cookies or allow something. Cookies are nothing but you are storing your data onto their browser cookies. Means once you come back, you don't have to again accept those cookies, right? Means your username, your passwords, or anything sort of a things which they have enabled, you can also allow your cookie storage enabling through that website. Okay, now the last now we have done with this dev tools, and it is very much important. You can also go through these. Okay, now we have to understand about the node package manager. Okay, so Node Package Manager will be helpful once you have installed the node, or once you have installed the once you are going on to the React or Angular. Suppose you are coding in React and you want any third-party libraries to be installed, right? So it's a library, right? It's a library means it's just the supportability. You have to install the third-party tools onto your application, onto your like sort of a code. So you have to use npm, that is Node Package Manager, which is basically nothing but a command line tool that installs, updates, and uninstalls the Node.js packages in your application. Suppose I want a carousel element, I want any slider, image slider in my application, and from the external source, right? So I can use the npm module for that, and I can basically install that in my application. Okay, so that is the very first thing. Then, and it's also an online repository for open source Node.js packages. So Node.js is nothing but an environment for running your JavaScript things. Like suppose you are creating your application in using Node, or basically using a JavaScript, right? So before running those JavaScript applications, you should have Node installed in your computers, in your desktops, right? Why? Because Node is nothing but an environment for running the JavaScript applications. Okay, for running an JavaScript application in your browser, in your desktops, you should have the Node installed in your computers. Okay, that is the very first thing. And once you have installed the Node Package Manager will already be prior be installed with it. Okay, so it will be installed along with the node, so you don't have to install it separately. It will be installed with the Node.js installation. Okay, after you install the Node.js, verify the npm installation by writing the following command in the terminal or the command prompt. So in the terminal, you just have to write npm space -v. So npm space -v will give you the version of the npm installed, means the Node Package Manager installed in your computers. Okay, so that is you will be learning once you choose either React or Angular, but Node Package Manager is one of the like tools which you will be using in your front-end development and as a front-end developer. Okay, and suppose I want to use any sort of an external libraries or frameworks in my React application, I will just go to the Node Package Manager website. Like suppose I will do one thing, I will root node npm npm image slider. Okay, Suppose I want my image slider. So what I will do, I will type npm's image slider. I will go to the very first thing which get searched. Okay, and see, these are the list of npm libraries which I can use. Suppose I want to use react image gallery, something like that. What I will do, I will copy this. Okay, I will copy this, and I will go to my terminal. Okay, I will go to the terminal, and what I will do, I will just paste it over here. Okay, I will just paste it, and I will just hit the enter. Okay, it will take some time. It will take some time, and it will be installed. Okay, so how it will be installed? In the dependencies. Okay, in the dependencies, you can see React Image Gallery with the version 1.3.0, 1.3.0 is installed. How it is installed? It is installed with the help of npm space I space React Image Gallery command. Okay, so this is how you can install the third-party libraries using npm in your applications. Okay, anything what you want, you can search it. Like suppose I want uh, image color, something like that. Right, anything related to it will be shown. Like suppose React Native image colors. Right, anything what you want to search, you can search it and just copy this and paste it in a terminal. Right, terminal of where? The terminal of VS Code. Right, where from where it comes, you have to go to this particular top bar, click onto the new terminal, you will get the new terminal. Okay, just paste this, press the enter, and you can see it will be installed. Right, as it is been installed, it will be shown in the dependencies. Is that fine for everyone? So it will be more helpful. So see, Avneet, the errors you won't get it directly. Once you have the errors onto the JavaScript, like suppose you have created your JavaScript, your React application or JavaScript application, what you will do is you will basically get the errors directly onto your console application. Like suppose the console is the place where a JavaScript code runs, right? So suppose there is an error on this website, right? Okay, on this particular page, so the console will only get the errors. Like suppose this is the 5 errors you are getting, right? Refuse to load the font. So this is what? This is the error, right? So all those things you will be getting on this console tab, right? All those things related to errors or related to warnings you will be getting in this console tab. Is that fine? Okay, Avneet. Okay, is that fine? Okay, fine. So we can move next to the slide. So I guess the tool things are being done, and we can move on to the next slideshow. That is the roadmap for becoming a front-end developer in 2024. Definitely, as we know, the 2023 is already completed, and it's on the verge to complete, and we have to think for the coming forthcoming year. So the roadmap we have to think of as a front-end developer. Okay, so a front-end developer is a type of software engineer who works on the front-end development. They're not only responsible for developing the UI, but they also ensure the balance between the design and the functionality, and ensure the speed and the durable scalability. As I have already told, the design is not only will not only make them as a front-end engineer. It's not only the design but also the development and the functionality perspectives. They also ensure that the website loads correctly on all the browsers. Like suppose I create my website, right? My website is only working onto one browser, and it's not working onto other browsers. It's not cross platform supportability and all. So my user base will be less, right? So definitely I have to make sure the website which we are creating as a front end developer works everywhere, at least the target browsers which the client wants. Suppose the client wants only in the Chrome, so we make sure it works in all the versions of the Chrome, whether the new or the previous versions, but we have to make sure it works. Okay, before that, the roadmap for becoming a front-end developer will initiate from learning the HTML. Okay, as I have told in the Chrome Dev Tools, the very first tab is of elements, right? And element tab basically displays you the multiple HTML tags. Suppose which HTML tags they have inculcated for creating any website. So any website can be Git website, or it can be Amazon website, or Flipkart website, or Swiggy website. You can inspect any website. You can see which HTML tags they have used. Okay, so what is an HTML? HTML is nothing but an hypertext markup language, and it is used to form the skeleton. Like suppose we are the humans, right? We are the humans with the skeleton, then the muscles, then everything, right? So if we don't have the skeleton prepared, so how we can create the React applications, how we can create the Angular application, right? So HTML is the founding stone, and this foundation stone for every either the JavaScript libraries or the JavaScript frameworks. But anyhow, we have to be familiar with the HTML, that is a hypertext markup language. Okay, it lays out the website journal structure and contents. Obviously, it lays out the website journal structure and the content, and the elements that you see on the screen, like buttons, images, sliders, and all are being added using HTML. Right? You can add anything: images, videos, audios, data pickers, textiles, cards, and all are being added with the help of HTML. So the very first thing for becoming a developer as a front-end developer is learning HTML in a good depth. Okay, you should know the front HTML in a good depth. Then the CSS. So it is a very good phrase which we say, I'm your HTML and you are my CSS. Okay, that means they both come together, right? I'm your HTML and you are my CSS. So that is a very good romantic phrase we can say as a developer, we can say. But yeah, HTML and CSS work in the same way. The HTML lays the skeleton of the website, but whereas the CSS gives you the colorizations, the styles, the fonts, the animations, everything are being handled with the help of CSS. So without skeleton, you can't have the CSS, mean the fonts. Without fonts, you can't have the proper skeleton. Right? It's not good to have this only the skeleton without anything. Right? So HTML and CSS works together and makes many things better. Okay, that is how the HTML and CSS works. Then the next step of learning should be the JavaScript. Okay, now that we have built the layout of a website using HTML and styled it with using the CSS, the next step is to add the actions to your website. Suppose you have created your login page, right? You have created the input fields, the buttons, but what actions to do after the button click? Obviously, once we press onto the button, those user field informations are being sent using an API to the backend. Right? So all those actions, the event management and all those things are being handled with the help of JavaScript. Like suppose you get the validations, right? The password should have these minimum 6 characters. It has the validations being put. So all those validations, all those actions being handled with the help of JavaScript. You can make a good UI, you can make the good CSS, you can make the good skeleton, but without the dynamic functionality, means the dynamic button clicks, है ना? जब तक कि उस बटन पे क्या करना है वो हमें नहीं पता चलेगा, वो कौन डिफाइन करेगा? जावास्क्रिप्ट. तब तक it is everything is in vain, right? Everything is in vain if you are not taking care of the dynamic perspective of the front end, right? So that is how the JavaScript works. Then understanding the JavaScript frameworks and the libraries. Right, so JavaScript framework is a pre-written code to support the features and the benefits beyond the plain JavaScript. Suppose you have created a website only with the plain JavaScript. You can create a website, but what about many a third-party library supports? And what about the more supportability from the state management and all the stuffs will be taken care with the React or the Angular. Right. So next step after the JavaScript, we have to choose between the frameworks or the libraries, which can be either the React or the Angular. Okay. Then we should learn about the basics of package managers. I have shown you and told you about how the Node package manager works, right? We have to search about multiple libraries, what we want. It gives you the list of libraries. We just copy that library and paste it, and it basically shows you dependencies, right? So we have to learn about the basics of sorry, the package managers, once we are familiar with the JavaScript libraries and frameworks. Then the next step would be the best practices to think of as a front-end engineer. है ना? So it's not only the development or designing without any rules and without any regulations. We have to follow few regulations and rules before becoming a good or a worth-it front-end engineer. Right. So what are the rules to build a scalable front-end architecture? Is define the HTML layout structure without the style rules as a skeleton to start working from. Build without business logic. Okay. Use functional logic only. First of all, we have to think how the function logics works. Means suppose we have something XYZ, right? And we don't have the proper functional logic ready, and we are focusing on to only the business logic. Right. So that should not be the scenario. First of all, we should focus on the functional logic and then on to the business logic. We don't have to focus more on the animations. Now the people are focusing on to the animated websites and all. We should follow that. It has the basic rules, it has the basic CSS, and we should avoid uh, using the much of the animations, because it makes our applications much more like heavier. Okay, it puts a lot of sort of load onto the GPU memory and the CPU memory. So we should make sure that it has the animations, but we are using the less of the animations, which can make our applications much more heavier. Okay. And we should avoid polluting your structure with elements just to cover a specific case. Like suppose you have just one thing, right, in your like fixing those things with the unnecessary of the elements, right? Don't put unnecessary of the elements just to fix those things, right? We don't have to find the alternatives for that. We have to find the solution for the development, right? So we don't have to put and pollute our HTML with the unnecessary elements. We can do and find the things much more with the easier way, right? We have to use the patterns and all those stuff. It's a good practice for becoming as a front-end engineer. Okay, so this is all from mine. So I will be addressing few technical Q&As. So any questions? Hi Uday. Yeah, any question? Any questions? Yeah, hi. Yes, Vanshita. We'll basically share the PPT. Any questions? Okay. So, okay. Uh, actually, Narendra, we are done with the today we have done with the session. So I guess the people don't have much doubts. So
Yeah. Uh,
that's all from my end. Thank you everyone for attending this wonderful.
Gaurav,
Yeah,
Vidur will take over the session
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Yes,
Vidur will answer all the questions related to uh, admissions. Yeah.
yeah, sure.
All right. Hi guys. Good evening. I hope you all have enjoyed Diwali festival, and I'm really grateful for all of each and one of you to join. Hi Vanshita. So I'll just quickly share my screen, and we will discuss a couple of pointers. Okay. And I'll be more than happy to take any questions that you have. Okay. So before we proceed ahead, let me just quickly give a small introduction about myself. Okay, so I'm from Team Alma Better, guys, and my name is Vidur Sharma. And anything you have related to admission procedure, discounting, anything that you have any queries coming from non-technical, technical background, having little or no experience, I will be addressing those queries. Okay. So we'll just jump right into this. Okay. Right. So as you might be aware, guys, Alma Better, we are a community-first learning platform where students can study in groups to learn and get motivated from each other, do projects in team, thus learning to adapt in a cross-functional environment, get ready for jobs by networking with industry professionals, mentors, and alumni. Right. At Alba Beta, we definitely believe, and our motto and one of our visions is to be the most student-centric platform. Right. That is where we come into the picture by offering this curriculum. Right. In sense of studying in groups, so you'll be learning with a lot of students, your classmates who are coming from different various backgrounds, and all of you will be starting from the scratch itself. Okay. At the same time, you'll be doing projects in teams. So this will always help you to adapt to work as a team, even when you do a job and you start with your career, right? Or if you're a working professional, you're looking for a career transition. You might be aware working in a team is at times you have to get a lot of thought process from other teammates. So adapting to that also, we help you that. Okay. And of course, in terms of we are quite renowned in pay after placement and offering students a job. Okay. We do also offer industry relevant curriculum covering topic from basics to advanced. So regardless of your background, experience, age, graduation year, we will be teaching you everything right from the very scratch itself, ground level to the advanced. Okay. We have 100 plus live classes with a lifetime access to recorded lectures as well. So coming to the live classes part, these classes are conducted thrice a week, guys. And during the live session itself, it's a live interactive session. So at any given point, if you have any doubt, queries, you can always feel free to address those to our instructors and moderators. Okay. And of course, if you are a working professional having different time zones and you're not able to attend the live lecture, you can always watch the live recording, complete the program, and go for the placement program. Okay. The placement drive, Almax, where we will be giving you a 100% guarantee job. Okay. 20 plus capstone projects along with 1,000 plus coding problems and assessments. Okay. Now to little emphasize on this part, guys, what exactly does capstone projects mean? Capstone projects is precisely to articulate, you'll be working on real-time data of actual companies, right? So this is where you'll be getting more of a hands-on experience. Okay. Because there is a tremendous difference when you learn something theoretical and when you're applying that, implementing it practically. So we are preparing you for that as well, where you'll be working with real-time data and you'll be implementing. So you'll be getting more of a hands-on experience to the current market case scenarios, right? Daily doubt resolution sessions along with one-on-one mentorships sessions. Okay. The daily doubt resolution session is always post the live lectures for 30 minutes. So you can always ask your doubts there. We also have a support platform, live support. You can always come and ask your doubts. Okay. From 11:30 to 8:30 in the evening, 6 days a week. And of course, one-on-one mentorship sessions for any industry career guidance that you're looking forward to. Following that, we do offer 50 plus mock interviews. So with a dedicated career coach. Okay. Covering the mock interviews part, this is where you'll be, we will be preparing you immersely to understand how the interview process goes, right? How you can talk to an interview, address the questions, tackle certain problems or obstacles question the interview might ask you, right? And at the same time, salary negotiation will be also taken care in this mock interviews, right? And the dedicated career coach will be there to help you and give you guidance on which role will be suitable for you based on your strengths, weaknesses, which companies should you approach, hold the offers, and so on and so forth. Okay. Last but not least, 100% job assurance with our 700 plus hiring partners. So we do offer a 100% guarantee job for students who complete the program with the prerequisite and go for the placement drive. That is the Almax. Okay. For technical skills, we have our live lectures, lab experiments, projects and assessments, group discussion, business communication, and technical storytelling. Okay. Most of this we have already covered. And to emphasize a little bit on group discussion, you'll be having certain group discussions with your peers who it will eventually help you to brainstorm, come up with certain ideas to overcome certain challenges and hurdles. Okay, at the same time you'll be working on your business communication, right? If you feel a little less confidence in your English vocabularies, we will be helping you there as well. Okay. For motivation and industry exposure, we have one-on-one mentorship sessions. Who are actually the mentors are people coming from the same industry, having 7 to 10 years of experience. So they're actually working professional who are an industry expert, right? So they will be guiding you with the current market trend and the industry, right? We have guest lectures, okay, community participation, learn industry leadership principles. And for if you're planning to go for the Almax program, which of course is optional, right? Our placement drive is quite optional. So if you're planning to just learn the program for upscaling, upskillment, and for knowledge, you can do that. If you're planning to get a job, or if you're planning to look for a career transition to shift into the data science or web development domain, respectively, you can go for the Almax, right? And that is where we'll come in and give you 100% guarantee job between 5 to 25 lakh. Okay. There will be covering some capstone projects as a revision, competency challenges, and AB CAT test. Okay. Right. So this is a few of our hiring partners out of the 700 plus hiring partners. Majority of the companies are big MNCs, companies like Amazon, Uber, JP Morgan, Chase and Co, HDFC, Accenture, EXL, Vedantu, right? KPMG, Capgemini. Okay. And yeah, to just give you a small idea about where are we currently at Alma Beta, we have already placed more than 3,000 students till date. We have more than 7,50,000 users in our community platform with around 50,000 active learners. Okay, students like you yourself. Okay, now this is something that is a real eye-catching, okay, for you all, that how the proportion of students and the salary will be distributed once you are transiting your career in the IT sector. Okay, so the average package is the highest, which is around 8 to 9 LPA for even a fresher that they can expect, and we have already provided based upon our placement report. And this is all subjective to based on your efforts, your inputs, and how much you're dedicated to your career and your program as well. Right. So if you're planning to always give 200%, this is not just applicable that you'll be landing here, but definitely you might always get high opportunities as well. And that is where we'll be pushing you for the same to get better opportunities. Right. Okay. So you can meet some of our alumni who have already done course with us, the program, and also have gotten a job. Right. They have secured a placement with one of the top companies like Tata, right? And you can always connect with them, try to understand how their learning journey was like through their LinkedIn profile. Okay. These are our instructors and mentors, okay, who are coming from the top 1 tech companies, leading companies, I would precisely add. Okay. We have Ravi Ranjan, who's a data scientist, right? Rachit Jain, data scientist again. We have Ekta Maheshwari from Accenture, and Sande, who's from Walmart. Okay. Student dashboard walkthrough. Okay. So once you have enrolled, guys, this is how your dashboard will look like. Okay. This is exactly how your dashboard will look like, where you can get every content of the program available right on the tip of your fingers. Okay. For the full stack web development program, you can continue with your learning. Okay. If you're planning to do some practice coding assessment, you can go there, right? At the same time, if you're planning to do some capstone projects, you can always come here and click on projects. Okay. You can choose the projects that as you desire. Either if you wish to do it individually, you can do it. If you want to do it in a group, you can always feel free to do the project in groups as well. Okay. Coming to the career part. So this dashboard is open for everybody. You also have an access to the dashboard. So you can always explore and do watch a couple of sessions, do a couple of quiz to understand if data science or web development is your cup of tea or not, right? Before joining. So that option is also open to you, and you can always feel free to explore that. Okay. Coming to the career part. Okay, this is mentorship sessions and our community platform as well. Okay. Refer and answer, we also offer and promote students like you yourself who are currently pursuing their graduation, who are already working professional. If they have any friend, colleague, or relative who's planning to join with them, right? So they can also get this opportunity to earn as well in terms of getting actual cash if they want to get, let's say, iPhone or MacBook, iPad, AirPods. We also do offer that in our referral option. So do explore that at your convenient time. And with that being said, we can come back to the PPT. Okay. So for all the enthusiastic learners who are still with us right now, we do have a special gift for you as this Diwali. And that is this coupon code of getting a 15% flat discount on all the programs. Okay. If you plan to go for the master's premium program or the iconic program, you can use the coupon code LEARN15 and you can get an early bird discount. Okay. Now I'd like to address all the Q&As which our folks have asked. Okay. Narendra, I believe this question has been answered, right? Guys, do you have any questions related to the admission procedure, coming from any background? Any questions that you have in your mind, feel free to ask me though. Cool. I'll take that as a no. I believe that all of you are very thorough with all the information. So I think we are good to go and we can wrap this session. Narendra, you have anything that you would like to add?
No, Vidur, we can end the session. Yeah.
Chalega. Cool. All right, guys, then. Thank you so much for joining. And I hope you had a lovely session with us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Right. Have a great evening ahead, guys.